Abigail on air.
Welcome back to Abigail on Air. Bear with me, you guys, and don't come at me, please, because I know that I missed an upload day, and it's because I've been not feeling well. My allergies have been killing me. 'Tis the season. So bear with me today as we honestly probably struggle bus through this episode because you probably maybe can hear it in my voice, and it is what it is. I don't want to put it off anymore. I'm excited for the episode today because today we are diving into something a lot of people struggle with, especially the people pleasers and the peacekeepers, and that is how to set boundaries when you absolutely hate confrontation. But hold on, because on top of that, I also want to talk about another something that sounds simple, but feels really, really hard to do. And that is the art of letting things be. So I'm going to do sort of a split episode type of thing because the reality is it all connects back to the topic of personal growth. And I want to be able to dive in and give both of these topics the spotlight individually. So with that being said, if the thought of saying no gives you anxiety, if you replay every conversation in your head after setting a limit with someone, or if you just struggle to let things go and let it be, this one's for you. Let's start it off with setting boundaries when you hate confrontation. Okay, let's start with the obvious. Setting boundaries feels confrontational. Like it feels like you're marching into battle and you have to have a sword and a shield ready when really you're just telling someone how you feel. It's really not confrontation, it's communication. And it's so funny because logically, we know that, right? But emotionally, our brains are like flashing danger, danger, abort mission. But for people like myself who don't like conflict, it can feel, and I want to put emphasis on the word feel, like you're disappointing someone or rejecting them or risking them not liking you anymore. And we sit there spiraling, imagining the absolute worst case scenario when in reality, the other person is probably just going to be like, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. But our anxiety can't let us think that logically. Instead, it's like, actually, we're going to catastrophize this situation instead. And I think a lot of that comes from conditioning. Growing up, maybe you were taught to be polite, agreeable, easy to get along with, the whole don't rock the boat mindset. Maybe you were the peacekeeper in your family and the one who kept everybody calm. Or maybe you've had people react badly in the past when you tried to stand up for yourself. So now your brain connects speaking up with drama. Our brains love to exaggerate, like one dramatic response from years ago, and suddenly every boundary talk feels like you're about to be exiled from the tribe. Like our nervous system remembers that one time someone snapped at us, and now it thinks that every boundary conversation is going to go exactly like that. But the truth is that you're not avoiding confrontation by not having those conversations. You're just postponing it. Every time you bite your tongue, agree to something that you don't want to do, or say it's fine when it's really not, you're letting that resentment build up. And you can feel it, right? Like it starts as irritation and then suddenly you're mad about everything, like they breathe wrong and you're just annoyed. And that resentment, you may ask, probably not, but maybe, it will come out eventually. It always does, either in distance, in burnout, or in an emotional outburst that you didn't mean to have. I mean, we have all been there. That moment when you snap over something tiny and you're like, okay, wow, that escalated fast. But really, it wasn't about that small thing. It was about all the swallowed words that came before it. But now I want to talk about what boundaries actually are, because I feel like we hear the word everywhere, like on TikTok and in therapy talk and Instagram captions, and everyone has a different definition in their head. And actually, this whole topic was inspired by a conversation that I was having with a friend of mine about boundaries and growth and stages of life. And it really opened my eyes to how unique everyone's perspectives are. Like, two people can be talking about the same word and mean two totally different things. And that's actually honestly kind of wild when you think about it. I think despite what seems to be a popular opinion, boundaries are not walls. They're not about shutting people out or being cold. Sometimes people hear boundary and immediately go, oh, so you don't like me anymore. Like, no, calm down. It's not a personal thing. They're just guidelines for how I want to be treated, how you want to be treated, what we're okay with and what we're not. It's basically you saying, hey, This is how to love me better. But for some reason, we feel guilty about that. An example, think about boundaries like a fence around your yard, not barbed wire, it's just a fence. Okay. You're not building a fortress. You're just defining what belongs to you and what doesn't. It's simple clarity for you, clarity for other people. It just keeps things clean instead of chaotic. Now, one thing I hear a lot when talking boundaries is the concern for what might happen with the ones closest to you. And let me tell you, the people who truly love and respect you, not only will they understand, but they'll want to know where those lines are, because it will help them show up for you in the right way. If someone cares about you, they're not going to get annoyed that you have told them how to treat you. They're going to be grateful. It's actually a green flag to communicate this stuff. And if someone gets upset with you about that boundary, it's usually a sign that they were benefiting from you not having one before. Okay, wow. I literally just lost power and everything went off right in the middle of me recording this episode. So I know that while 95% of you would have never known that if I hadn't told you, I want you guys to understand what I'm going through right now. That frustration and the side quest in my brain of being like, where was I at? What was I even talking about? So on that note, let's jump back in and I want to talk mindset shifts. So how do you set boundaries when confrontation absolutely makes your skin crawl? Honestly, shift your mindset from I'm being difficult to I'm being clear, because that mindset shift is everything. Half of the battle is just reframing it. Again, you're not a problem, you're communicating. You're not creating conflict, you're preventing it. And that one is so important because I know it feels backwards. Our brains want us to think if I don't say anything, everything will be fine. But honestly, that's a lie. It's a lie we tell ourselves to avoid discomfort. You may think that putting it off is the avoidance of conflict, but as I said before, it will lead to a much larger confrontation if you put it off than if you let it be known. It's like sweeping crumbs under a rug, right? Eventually, it becomes a whole disgusting pile that you have to deal with, and now it's a bigger mess than if you would have just cleaned it up in the moment. And another difficult mindset on the topic is learning that you're not hurting someone's feelings by expressing your own. Okay? You're teaching them how to respect you. And that's a very powerful perspective. It's not about being mean or about being cold. It's literally giving someone the instruction manual on how to be in your life without accidentally stepping on landmines. I know that sounds dramatic, but hear me out. That's something that we all not only need, but something that we should all want in every single relationship. Because the reality is honestly that most people, most of the time, don't realize they're crossing a line until you tell them. Most of the time, people are wrapped up in their own world. They're not trying to be disrespectful. They just really don't know. And how could they? Because we're all built so differently. We all have different limits. And if we don't say anything, we're all just going to assume that everything's fine. So now let's get into the how, because cool, we get why boundaries matter, but how do you actually do it without feeling like you're about to ruin someone's day? Here are some things that actually help if you hate confrontation. Take it from me, and why would you? You may ask, probably not, but maybe. My credentials are that I am someone who is a people pleaser, okay? And saying that I don't like confrontation is an understatement. But the catch is I'm also not afraid to set a boundary to protect myself. It's like this weird duality. I'll be anxious about it and overthink it till the sun goes down, but I'll still do it because peace is worth it. And I guess so am I. So, number one, use calm and neutral language. It doesn't have to seem rude or angry or bothered. I always try to politely but sternly express my boundaries. I feel like there is this misconception that boundaries have to come with an attitude, and they don't. You can be kind and firm at the same time. You don't have to over-explain or apologize. Instead of saying something like, I'm so sorry, I just can't do that right now. I hope that's okay. Try, I won't be able to do that, but thank you for thinking of me. You're not being rude. You're just being direct. And honestly, directness is respectful. It leaves less room for confusion. Number two, try having a couple solid responses ready. Sometimes the fear comes from being caught off guard, and that's when the panic rambling kicks in. Don't lie to me. We've all been there, okay? Having a couple responses that are ready that can be used in almost any circumstance is helpful. An example, I need some time to think about that. Or I will have to pass on that, but thank you for thinking of me. Those little phrases buy you space and give you confidence. Trust me. It's like giving future you a safety net so that you're not scrambling in the moment. Number 3, start small. Don't jump straight into setting huge emotional boundaries with difficult people. Okay. That's like deciding that your first ever run is going to be a marathon. You're going to get burnt out. Practice saying no to smaller things first. As I said in my last episode, saying no when the people pleaser in you is screaming yes is harder to do than most people realize. But starting with declining the plans that you really don't want to go to or asking for space when you need it is a really, really good place to start. And every time that you do it, it will get easier. Number 4, expect discomfort, not disaster. Your heart might race. You might overthink it. Honestly, it's not even a might. It's a more than likely, okay? And that's okay. It's just your nervous system adjusting to a new way of protecting you. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It means that you're growing, because growth rarely feels cozy at first. And lastly, number 5, remember that your comfort matters too. You don't owe constant availability, explanations, or emotional labor to anyone, even the people that you love. And we forget that sometimes. We show up so much for others that we forget that we're allowed to take up space too. Healthy relationships have room for everyone's need. It's not just for one person. Now, the hard part. Sometimes people won't like your boundaries. And I know that's the part nobody really wants to hear. We want everyone to clap and cheer every time we advocate for ourselves. But the reality is sometimes people get uncomfortable because it changes the dynamic that they're used to, especially if they benefited from you not having boundaries before. That doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It just means that the dynamic is shifting. And anytime dynamics shift, there's an adjustment period. You will probably feel guilty. You will probably second guess yourself. You will probably have that immediate, ugh, did I do too much feeling? Even though you know that you were totally reasonable. Okay. But guilt doesn't always mean that you're doing something wrong. It just means that you're doing something new. Your nervous system's job is to keep you familiar, not fulfilled. Just try to stay consistent and know that the people who truly care about you, they will adjust, okay? And they'll adjust because they care more about you as a person than they do about the convenience of access to you. And the ones who only respected you when you made things easy for them, they'll fall off, okay? And that's okay. Dare I say that that's probably more than likely even a good thing, okay? People leaving isn't always lost. Sometimes it's alignment. And when you're growing, not everyone will continue to feed your growth, okay? And you don't want to have a circle of people or even associate with people who are trying to hold you down. And I do have a reference, and this one goes out to all my plant people, okay? It's like pruning a plant. We prune plants to maintain their health and appearance and to encourage growth, right? We remove the damaged parts that can prevent new growth so that the rest of the plant can thrive. I'm going to leave it at that, okay? And it will take some time to realize that that's what's happening, because it is easier to blame yourself and to make it your fault, because we have that moment where we would rather just keep them happy and keep them around than lose them. And that is the people pleaser survival instinct talking. That was a mouthful. But if they're meant to stay in your life, they will come back understanding, and not just understanding, but respecting you more for communicating clearly. One thing, okay, that has made a night and day difference in my emotional growth is knowing it's okay if people react. Most situations where people do react is purely just emotion. And while it's hard, space and time will heal if it's supposed to. I know that it's a scary thing even to give space and time, especially when a conflict happens, but it will heal if it's supposed to. It's kind of like giving both of you a timeout. It's not as a punishment, but as a perspective. They'll have the chance to react again with a clear mind because they had the time to think logically and not react emotionally. Because when emotion settles, clarity comes back, and people often return calmer and kinder and more open to hearing you. Now, while this episode is not dedicated to confrontation, I want to give confrontation its moment still, because I grew up with people who did not mind confrontation at all. If anything, I would say a higher percentage of them thrived on it. So I want to talk about what that meant for me, the things that I learned about it as someone with those examples when I'm a very non-confrontational person. So here are some of those things that I've written down that I want to cover on this topic. So for starters, hating confrontation doesn't mean that you're weak. It usually means that you care deeply. And Honestly, that's something people don't talk about enough. People who hate confrontation are often the ones who are tuned into how others feel. They want to keep the peace, avoid hurting people, and preserve harmony. And that is not a flaw. Okay. It is a strength. And I feel like that was probably what I struggled with the most, was defining that empathy and the desire for peace was not a flaw, because the peacekeeper and the quietly dominant personality that I have was always in a room of loud, outspoken dominance. But the growth, in my opinion, comes when you learn that caring about others and standing up for yourself are not opposites. They can coexist. You can be kind, empathetic, and gentle and still have hard conversations. You can be a leader if you're still a peacekeeper. And sometimes that's the most impressive version of strength. Strength does not always show up loud. Sometimes it's literally just you taking a shaky breath and saying the uncomfortable thing anyways. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be confident. It just has to be honest. Next, the fear of confrontation is often worse than the confrontation itself. And I did speak a little bit about this, honestly, just a couple minutes ago, but I do want to further dive into this. We spend hours replaying scenarios in our head. At least I know I have a habit of doing that. Okay. No shame. It's honest, but replaying scenarios in our head and imagining the worst, right? The overthinking, the fake arguments, the whole dramatic movie that we create in our minds. We've all done it. Don't lie to me. Okay. But when the confrontation actually happens, it's usually not as explosive or painful as we pictured. Half the time, even though the other person is just like, oh yeah, that's fine, it's the anxiety leading up to it that can be heavier than the moment itself. And sometimes we're not avoiding the person, we're avoiding the feeling, like that knot in your stomach and that feeling when your heart starts racing. But I would say for me at least, a solid 9 times out of 10, once the moment happens, that weight starts to lift. And then I end up wondering why I didn't do it sooner, like why I didn't just get it over with. And it's just about taking those breaths and going at a pace that feels comfortable for you and showing up for yourself even when you're fearful of the unknown. Next, I want to talk silence. Silence can feel safe in the moment. It's tempting. It seems like the easy way out. But that silence will slowly build a wall between you and your own peace. As I pointed out before, avoiding confrontation might feel like you're protecting yourself, but it often means that you will end up carrying unspoken frustration, resentment, or guilt. It's like holding your breath. Eventually, something has to give. Or you'll end up paying for peace with your own discomfort. Okay? No one wants that. Avoidance is a short-term solution with a long-term cost. And okay, well, you guys are probably going to laugh at me on this, but hear me out, okay? It may be cheesy, but it gets the point across. I have an analogy for you. You might avoid the storm, but you end up walking with a rain cloud over your head, okay? When in reality, if you face the storm, it will pass. If you're laughing at me, that's okay, okay? That's fine. I nailed that, okay? No shame. Now on to the next. This one is going to sound a lot like the last two, but I'm leaving it on the list anyways. You don't have to be fearless to handle confrontation. You just have to show up anyways. And when I say that, I mean, confidence doesn't always mean being calm, collected, and articulate. It can look like nervous hands, a shaky voice, and still speaking the truth, right? Just because your voice shakes doesn't mean it doesn't count. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving through it. People think courage looks loud and bold, but sometimes it's quiet, it's uncomfortable, and it's just standing your ground with your heart pounding. Next, the way someone reacts to your truth says more about them than about your worth. And I want you to hear me out on that, okay? I know that some of these may sound a little bit blunt, but maybe that's sort of the point. Because that's a big one, okay? A lot of the fear around confrontation comes from worrying how the other person will respond. Like, will they be mad? Will they pull away? And we take responsibility for emotions that were never ours to maintain in the first place. Their reaction is theirs to own. It doesn't define the validity of what you said. You can say something with kindness and honesty, and someone still can choose to react badly. That doesn't make you wrong. It just means that their feelings are theirs to sort through. Not to be too blunt, okay? But you can't control someone else's emotional maturity, and you shouldn't shrink to match it. Next, confrontation can actually deepen connection, not destroy it. This is where our brains tend to get dramatic, right? It's easy to believe that confronting someone means ruining a relationship, But healthy confrontation often does the opposite. It clears the air. It makes the relationship more real and less fragile. It says, I care enough to talk about this. And you may think avoiding the hard talks keep things polite, but facing them together makes things honest. And as I've said before, honesty is where real connection lives. That was a mouthful. Okay, I'm tired already. Next, the goal isn't to win confrontation, it's to stay aligned with yourself. We were talking mindset shifts earlier. Here is a big one for you, okay? It's easy to turn confrontation into a battle of right and wrong, but when you hate confrontation, the best mindset shift is this. You're not there to win. You're there to be authentic, to not abandon yourself to keep the peace. And lastly, your nervous system can learn safety is in, oh my goodness, I'm going to restart that, okay? Because I totally messed up reading that. Your nervous system can learn safety in uncomfortable conversations. Just like any other skill, this can be trained. This is important, okay? The dread that you feel isn't permanent. The more you practice these moments calmly, gently, and at your pace, the less your body interprets confrontation as danger. You can literally retrain your mind to feel steadier in these moments. Confrontation shouldn't feel like you're standing in fire, okay? I mean, I don't know what it should feel like. Maybe standing in the sun too long. I don't know. It's uncomfortable, but it's survivable. And that shift will change everything. Now, before we transition into the art of letting things be, I want to leave you guys with a couple gentle self-reminders on this topic. It's okay to protect your peace. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. You're allowed to disappoint people, and you're not mean for saying no. Setting boundaries isn't about confrontation. It's about self-respect. And honestly, it takes a lot of us a long time to realize that. We get used to shrinking ourselves, tiptoeing around other people's comfort, and putting our own needs on the back burner to the point that boundaries start to feel like this big dramatic event. But really, it's just taking care of yourself. And the more you practice it, the less scary it becomes, because you start to see that peace doesn't come from keeping everyone else happy. It comes from honoring yourself. Stop abandoning all of your own needs just to be liked. Stop stretching your capacity just because someone asked you to. Stop apologizing for existing. Now that I got that off my chest, it's time to talk the art of really letting things be. Not fixing, not forcing, not overthinking every possible outcome, but just simply letting it be. Because if you're someone who's why am I struggling, you guys? If you're someone who needs closure, who always wants to understand the why, who struggles to sit in uncertainty, you're in good company. I think most of us were taught how to chase, how to work, how to plan, but no one really ever taught us how to surrender. So we're going to talk about what that actually means and how to practice it when your instinct is to hold on tight. Okay, starting off strong with this one, why do we feel the need to fix everything? I think a lot of us try to control things because it gives us this false sense of safety. Like, if we can just get ahead of the outcome, then at least we won't be blindsided, right? Like, it's almost like we trick our brain into thinking that if we're hyper aware and constantly on guard, that nothing bad can surprise us. If I can fix it, if I can figure it out, if I can make it make sense, then maybe it won't hurt so much mindset, because control often comes from a place of fear that if you don't hold it all together, that everything will fall apart. I happen to know that I'm especially guilty of this mindset. And honestly, a lot of us carry that fear quietly. We become the friend, sibling, partner, coworker who's always handling it, even when we're falling apart on the inside. It's not because we're dramatic. It's because we're scared of what happens if we loosen our grip even a little. But life doesn't always give you closure. People leave without explanation, opportunities pass without reason, and sometimes the version that you thought you would be just doesn't fit anymore. It's uncomfortable, it feels unfair, and it makes you want to cling tighter, but sometimes life shifts in a way that you never asked for, and your only real choice is to evolve with it. We end up exhausting ourselves trying to force peace when sometimes peace only comes from stepping back. And while I won't bring up peace too much, I won't go too deep into it, because I did do a whole episode on chasing peace instead of success. So it is the last episode if you guys want to listen to that one. But trust me, forcing peace is sneaky and it's not the way to go. It looks like saying, I'm fine when you're not. It looks like over explaining. It looks like constantly smoothing the edges of situations that weren't your responsibility in the first place. But anyways, letting things be doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're choosing not to drain yourself, trying to control what's already out of your hands. It's actually one of the most loving things you can do for yourself, not getting tangled in every little outcome that you cannot control. You might notice that when you let things be, that people reveal who they are without you having to pull it out of them. You might see that situations resolve themselves when you give them room to breathe. And you never know, maybe you might realize that you don't need to have all the answers to feel okay. A lot of personal growth happens in the waiting, in the surrender, in the quiet moments when you stop trying to edit your life like it's a story you have to control the ending of. It's uncomfortable, sure, that in between space feels awkward and it feels heavy. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Not text, not chase, not pressure. Just pause. Let the apology come when it's meant to, not when it's forced or begged. Let the clarity reveal itself when you're ready to receive it and not a moment earlier. Let God do his thing without your constant interference. And I know that's easier said than done, but every time you release something that you were gripping too tightly, you make space for something healthier to land in your life. Which leads me to the next segment of control versus acceptance. There's a big difference between control and acceptance. Control says, if I just do this right, I can make it go my way. That's the anxious voice, the hyper responsibility, the internal fixer. Acceptance says, even if this doesn't go my way, I'll still be okay. That's peace, that's trust, that's self-assurance, okay? We sometimes treat them like they're the same thing, like acceptance is just failed control, but it's not, it's wisdom. That shift from control to acceptance is where peace starts. It's not instantly, but gradually. Like turning the volume down on the chaos, right? It's quiet, it's uncomfortable, but it's freeing because freedom doesn't always feel like fireworks, right? It's not the 4th of July, but sometimes it feels like a deep exhale, okay? Because when you stop trying to rewrite what's already written, you realize that your energy is better spent healing and not convincing. Trying to convince the wrong person, the wrong situation, the wrong season, it just drains you. I think we all live in a world that constantly tells us to do, to take control, to make it happen, to manifest, to fix what's broken. And while all of those things, they're powerful, there's a time for the opposite, a time not to do, a time to step back, to breathe, to say, you know what? I don't have to figure this out right now. And you know what? Rest is productive. Stillness is productive. Letting go is productive. That's what letting things be really means. It means giving your life permission to unfold in its own way, trusting that your life is better when you're not in control and God is, okay? And when you finally loosen your grip, you might be surprised by how naturally everything falls into place. Now, the uncomfortable middle. It's the hardest part about letting things be. It's not instant peace. We all kind of hope it will be, right? Like the moment we release something, we'll suddenly feel lighter and relieved. But in reality, the first feeling that we feel isn't peace. It's usually panic. At first, it feels like loss, like giving up. It feels like you're walking away from something that you should be fighting harder for. It feels like you're betraying yourself for choosing rest instead of control. And it makes the process uncomfortable. Because doing nothing feels unnatural when you've spent your whole life over functioning. When you're used to being the fixer, the problem solver, the emotional glue, stillness feels like failure. You're almost like feeling guilty for not doing more. Your brain is like, are you sure? Shouldn't we be doing something? And it takes time to rewire that instinct. But over time, you start to notice that life keeps moving anyways. And that realization is wild. The world doesn't fall apart when you stop micromanaging every detail. Conversations still happen. Opportunities still come. Relationships still shift naturally. The people meant to stay, stay. The doors meant for you, open. Even when you stop knocking so hard, okay? We don't got to beat doors down. You start realizing that anything meant for you doesn't require you to beg or chase. It'll align. It'll show up. It'll feel steady instead of exhausting. And the things that fall away, you realize they were never yours to chase in the first place. And that not every door that closes is loss. Sometimes it's redirection. Those closed doors that you cried over, they saved you. That distance you didn't understand, it protected you. That detour you didn't ask for, it led you. Okay? It led you somewhere better, right? Sometimes you don't see the better until you walked away long enough to look back. But letting things go isn't about surrendering your power. It's about shifting where your power comes from. Trust, not control. So how do you actually do it? Because it's one thing to understand the concept, but it's a completely different thing to apply it in real life. We hear let go and we're like, cool, yeah, but how exactly? We're humans. We like step-by-step instructions. So here are a few ways to start. Step 1, notice when you're gripping too tightly. If you're replaying a conversation, obsessing over someone's opinion, or trying to predict every outcome, that's your cue to breathe. Seriously, pay attention to your body, tight shoulders, clenched jaw, that buzzing feeling in your chest. Those are signs that you're in control mode. Awareness is usually the first nudge that something needs to shift. Step 2, ask yourself, what am I trying to control right now? Sometimes just naming it out loud helps you release it. It sounds simple, but our brains love clarity. When you identify what you're afraid of, losing someone's approval, worrying about the future, avoiding rejection, it becomes easier to loosen your grip. The unknown feels less scary when you call it out. Step 3, redirect your focus. When your mind spirals, bring yourself back to what's here, not what's lost or what might happen next. Ground yourself in the present. What can you touch? What can you see? What's real right now? Because usually the spiral lives in the what ifs, not the what is. When you focus on the current moment, you take your power back. Step whatever we're on. I don't even know. I don't have it written down. 4, I think. Trust this again, going back to what I said in the last episode. This is why I can't be a motivational speaker. I don't have it together. Trust that peace doesn't need your panic. The right things will never require you to beg or break to keep them. That is such an important truth. The things that are meant to be in your life don't hinge on you controlling every detail. They stay because they're aligned, not because you forced them. Peace can't exist where panic is running the show. Step 5, 6, 7, whatever it is. Sorry. Okay. Remembering that letting things be isn't giving up. It's letting go. You're not quitting. You're choosing your energy wisely. There is a huge difference between surrender and defeat. Surrender says, I trust what's meant for me. Defeat says, I'm walking away because I'm not worthy. One drains you, the other frees you. Letting things be is a skill, okay? And in like any skill, you get better at it with practice, patience, and honesty. More than anything, it's a whole lot of unlearning. When you start to release the need to control everything, something shifts. It's not like a dramatic movie moment where suddenly everything makes sense. It's subtle. It's like your nervous system unclenches a little, your breath gets deeper, your thoughts get quieter, you feel a tiny bit lighter, and you barely notice it until one day you look back and you realize that you're not as tense as you used to be. You start to notice the small things again, the morning light, the way your coffee smells, the quiet moments that used to get lost in the noise. And it's funny how control steals your presence. When you're constantly planning and fixing and managing, your brain is in the future, not in the moment. But when you let go just a little bit, you actually look up. You slow down. The simple things hit different. You stop rushing to fix every emotion. You just let yourself feel it, write it out, move forward without it needing it all to make sense. And that's huge. Trying to make every feeling logical is its own form of control. But sometimes emotions don't need to be solved. They just need to be felt. And when you give yourself permission to just be with them, they pass like weather instead of becoming storms that you camp inside. And slowly you start trusting your life again and yourself too. And that trust doesn't come overnight. It builds every time you survive something you swore would break you. Every time something works out without you forcing it. Every time peace shows up where panic used to live. Because deep down, you realize that even when things don't go how you plan, that you survived every uncertain moment so far. And that you can trust that you'll survive the next one too. Seriously, I mean, look at your track record. Every plot twist, every heartbreak, every unexpected change, you're still here. Stronger, smarter, more grounded. That's not luck. That's resilience. That the art of letting things be really is just the art of trusting yourself and trusting God. trusting that no matter what happens, you'll handle it, you'll learn from it, and you'll be okay, even if things don't go your way. It's not passive, it's not careless, it's choosing faith over fear. It's believing that you are held even in uncertainty. It's really just confidence in knowing that you're safe even in the unknown. That's where true peace lives. Not in controlling outcomes, but in trusting your ability to handle them. When you realize that, the unknown doesn't feel like a threat anymore. It feels like possibility. So if you're in a season where everything feels uncertain, where you don't know what to do or how to fix it, try this. Don't fix it. Don't chase it. Just let it be. Let people reveal who they are. Let endings end. Let new beginnings find you naturally. The peace you're looking for doesn't come from controlling your life. It comes from trusting it. Wow. Okay. And with that, I think that we have made it to the end. I think my thoughts are run dry for today, guys. I do want to give a little reminder if you want to get notifications when I post an episode here on YouTube, since I am no longer sending them out like I used to. If you are subscribed, you can click the bell icon where you can set notification preferences, including receiving notifications when I post. So I do have my next few personal growth topics lined up, and I am so excited to keep the series going. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Thank you all for listening. I hope that you all have a lovely and blessed rest of your week, and I will see you back here next week for When Growth Feels Lonely. You know what they say. Like and subscribe or whatever. Love you all. Peace out.